hello and welcome to the autumn term of Speaking About Speaking. Yay! It's so strange to be back after such a long break over the summer. And as you can see, I have with me here the lovely Adrienne Saunders. Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. Yes, you've been on my list for a long time. So yeah, looking forward to talking to you. So without any further ado, considering it's, we have started, and actually I always feel quite embarrassed that I'm going to be caught dancing along to the countdown music when it suddenly goes live. But I think I managed to control myself, but very excited to be back. So, Adie, you were just saying to me that you liked what I put together for the introduction for LinkedIn. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to introduce you. So
Thank you.
Adie is founder and director of Yes You Can Training, and which provides learner-based and practical public speaking and confidence training programs to small and medium-sized companies. And the first line of your website, which I was very impressed, it says it all. It says, every time you speak and there is someone listening, it is public speaking, which is so, so true. And people don't realize that, do they? They kind of think, oh no, public speaking is in front of an audience. But every time you speak and someone's listening, that's it. She works mainly in, sorry, that threw me because I was going to say, Adie, work mainly with female leaders in a male-dominated business environment to enhance their communication skills so they can make themselves heard. And that's obviously, that's something that is really needs addressing in lots of spaces, doesn't it? Really?
Absolutely.
But your background is in team gymnastics, achieving a world and European championship medals, which is amazing. And we will definitely dig a little bit deeper into that, because I'd love to know a little bit more about that, because I think your sporting skills led to success in a business career, which you now share with professionals to help them reach their full potential. And so maybe let's start there. First of all, how did you get into that world? Was it something that you did from a child?
Yes. As people who know me will testify, including my mom and dad, my whole family, and my husband, I am a fidget in the best sense of the words. I never sit still. I was full of energy as a child, and a family friend was involved in gymnastics, in classic gymnastics, and they said, "Oh, I think Katie should try gymnastics. I think she will love it," and I loved it from the moment my mum took me to the gymnastic hall. I absolutely fell in love with it. My mum, not that much, because she was always worried for me. It's quite a scary sport from the outside, but from the inside, when you're a child, it's fun. It's filled with fun. It's never boring. And I never, people often ask me, were you not afraid of injuries and falling? Well, the first thing you learn is how to fall, which, by the way, came very handy later in my life and career, and when I face challenges. When you learn how to fall in every sense of the word, you know how to bounce back. So as a child, I did classic gymnastics, and it's only later on that I went back to team gymnastics, also known as aerobic gymnastics.
Yeah. I mean, I love that learning, how to fall is great for every area of your life. I mean, that's just an amazing thing to take away. So why did you? Was it because then were you doing high up stuff? What was it that your mother was so afraid of?
Well, you do a lot of jumps. You're on different disciplines, the beam, the bars. It is quite scary from the outside. And when I watch sports, one of my hobbies is still to watch sports, including gymnastics. And when I watch gymnastics with people, they are shocked and often very afraid of even watching these amazing jumps and feats. And I just know that everything is is learnable. All the turns, all the flips, every movement is part of a series of small movements, which again, if we talk about what I teach, that's what I teach. We don't start with the big stuff. We just start with the smallest step possible.
Yeah.
Because that's how you build up movement. That's how you build up skills. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's not scary.
Yeah. I mean, we would just mentioned before we came on air about the fact that I've been teaching the stunt performers this last week, teaching them how to act. And, you know, in the room with us there were gymnasts, there were world champion gymnasts, martial arts guys, you know, and they'd all had the discipline of a sports background, you know, whether it's teamwork, whether it's just being fit, learning how to fall, learning, you know, all of those skills. And when they arrived on the Monday morning, they were not very confident at all at what the week was about to bring. But again, baby steps, because they couldn't keep still either. You know, that's why they do what they do, is because, you know, they can't sit on a chair for longer than 10 minutes. But baby steps. By the end of the week, they'd brought all of, and I said to every single cohort that we've had so far, it's because of that sporting background, I think, that they come to the 5-day intensive course we do with them with so much discipline that they're streets ahead of anybody that wants to become an actor or whatever. It's because they know how to commit, how to be committed.
Yes, I believe that's quite true. Commitment, discipline, focus is something you learn in sports. And by the way, in the military as well, I often work with ex-military personnel, and we right away we find that common language because we fall back on that discipline and quite regimented life, especially if you're an athlete at high level. Your life is very regimented, and it's something that is learnable. Again, it's a learnable skill. People often say, I'm just not very disciplined. Well, yes and no. It's not something that we are given at birth. This is something that you learn. And why? Because there is a worthy goal. That's how we learn discipline. And for athletes, that carrot, if you like, is the gold medal. But we all have that carrot in front of us. We can all find that goal, which makes us disciplined. And if you've got discipline and repetition, honestly, that's how champions are made.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, all the guys that have been through the acting course have come out champions in that as well. I mean, just amazing. So tell me about the transition then that you've made. Where did that come about? I assume you were doing the gymnastics in is it from Hungary?
Yes, I am originally from Hungary, albeit I had a very varied upbringing. And without going into too much detail, so I did gymnastics when I was a child, and then mom and dad worked abroad. My dad's an engineer, so I was raised partly in Algeria and Vietnam, and spent the summers at home. So there was a hiatus, if you like, when I didn't do gymnastics, and I only went back to it when I was in my teenage years. And then came the success and the traveling and the international medals. So by the time I got to my mid-20s, it was time to retire. And as every athlete, I went down the route of becoming an international judge and a trainer. But I also, by that time, I started to build up my career and started to work for corporates. And very quickly, I found myself in leadership. The second job I had was leading a team of 18. And people were saying, how? And I didn't think anything of it. I said, what do you mean, how? This is what I wanted. That was my goal. So here I am. And in that sense, I had a very smooth transition, if you like. I did not encounter what athletes often encounter, which is coming out of that very regimented world and not finding themselves, because I started to transition quite early. And I also studied, so part of the discipline for me was that I studied economics, I studied languages whilst I was still competing. So everything was prepared when I had to say goodbye to the stage, which still makes me cry. So if I if I think of not being able to compete, or if I watch sports and I see champions being made, I mean, I always cry because of that feeling of how much it means. You can really relate to that. So then, yes, I found myself in leadership, and again, I quickly started to realize that everything I've learned in sports came handy, meaning not only the discipline, but different levels of intricacies, games, power games, getting what you want, putting your voice out there. I am quite small. You met me. I'm small, I'm blonde, I'm kind, I am smiley. So I often got put into a box which I did not belong to. That box being, oh, Adrienne, you don't need to worry about her. She's kind, she's petite, she's not going to put up a fight. I did and do consider myself as a lion, so that box did not belong, and it often surprised people. So I had skills, I had ambition, and I had empathy. I had a great ability to understand people, and I absolutely loved leadership, loved it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lion, certainly. I can imagine you not fitting into that box at
No,
all, at all. No, no.
still
If
not
there,
into that box.
for anybody out there listening, if you've got any questions for either of us, or want to just say hi, then just pop something in the comments, because we'd love to hear from you. Love to
Yes.
hear from you. So Adi, how then was it through leadership that you got into the communication game?
Yes. I, having been in leadership for a few years, I was, of course, competitive, and I loved targets and KPIs. I excelled in that type of setup. But after a while, I started to realize that albeit that was exciting, that did not fulfill me. What I started to see was making me happy is creating teams where everybody knew their place and where everybody was confident and happy, which meant that as a leader, I could step back because everybody in the team carried on, which meant that I became an expert in bringing up teams in distress into high performance. And that's what I started to do. Every 2 to 2.5 years, I would change industries and positions, and I would take on a team that was in absolute distress, and lovingly, caringly, by sharing techniques and communicating and coaching and nurturing them, I would bring them up to high performance, and then I would take on the next team. So really, by this time, I'm not even considering this as leadership, but coaching and mentoring through communication and through bringing out the best in people. Because if people are happy and confident, the leader has got a very easy job, and therefore organizations are excelling because there's less conflict, targets would be achieved, there's a common sense of goals, the team's ambition is to do well because the individuals are well, and I think that's magical. So that's how I started to shift into communication and coaching.
Yeah. And then when did the leaving it all behind to start your own business, when did that come about?
So after, I would say, about 12 13 years in corporate leadership, I started to feel that maybe I wanted to find an area where I can do more and I can be myself more. I started to feel that the corporate setup wasn't enough for me. Maybe it was too frameworked. And I put it out there into the world that I wanted to concentrate on doing training only. So I went to the Master Trainer Institute in Switzerland and became a master trainer. But I still needed official experience, although everything that I did before was training and coaching, but it was under the umbrella term of leadership. So then I started to work for a training startup organization, which I absolutely loved. And I got some experience under my belt. After about 3 years, first of all, I started to feel that I was ready to run my own business, but also I started to feel, and I often talk about this in my talks, I started to feel burnt out. And now I teach signs of burnout, but it caught me out. I was traveling up to London often. I was flying to Europe to deliver a training, coming back, jumping on the train, doing something else the next day. The competitiveness and the ambition was stronger than my ability to see the signs. So I got very close to burnout, but not close enough. And then I knew that was the time. And that's when I set up my own company and started to concentrate on building up from scratch, which was 9 months before COVID. And did I have a worldwide pandemic in my first year of budgeting? Let me think. No. But nothing's impossible. And businesses have to be resilient. People and businesses have to be resilient. And 4 years on, I am very happy to say that the business is exactly where I thought it should be by this time.
Good. Yeah, we were all a bit shocked by that, really.
Won't we just?
Yeah. In fact, I mean, that's where we met, wasn't it? Really, it's where we met during the pandemic.
Yes.
Although I think we were networking in the same spaces before lockdown.
Yes, we were.
So did you find the teams that you were working with different after lockdown? Did you notice a difference in the way people were communicating?
Yes, I would say definitely different. It's a very interesting question. First of all, the fact that we are able to do stuff online now, I welcome that, because as a person who works with women in STEM industries, it allows me to bring women together within an organization who previously would not have been in the same geographical space. So in the olden days, when we only did training in training rooms, you'd have to fly people in, get people in. It would be a bigger budget, and sometimes that wasn't possible. And therefore, women often didn't even know each other. So from my point of view, I definitely welcome the ability to bring people together through virtual setups and be able to connect them and deliver training. In terms of communication, so many people now, I train for public speaking and presenting and being on stage, and they are having to relearn what it means to stand in front of people, because it's so easy, and it's something that I am always sort of fighting against. It's so easy to switch off your camera and just be. And big meetings often go with people not being on camera. Smaller meetings, one-to-ones without camera on, it removes trust, and people are having to relearn that. It's possible, but I can definitely feel that. I don't know, do you feel that way? What differences did you notice?
Yeah, no, the not having the camera on is a strange one. You know, in beginning of lockdown, before I really started the public speaking side of my business, I was running improvisation and sort of acting workshops, which made it very difficult if people didn't put their camera on. And in fact, I almost had to insist, well,
Yes.
if you're here. And I suppose I was lucky in that I was working with people that were quite happy to
Yes.
put themselves forward. So it was quite strange when I started doing the business networking or started coaching online or being part of sort of doing presentations. It's very disconcerting to be faced with a wall of blank squares.
Yes.
And you're not sure, especially if you're doing a presentation to a group and half of the group haven't got their cameras on. You have no idea whether what you're saying is landing, whether they're listening, whether they're interested.
Yes.
At least if you're in a space and you're in front of an audience, whether that's people around a boardroom table, whether it's on a stage, whether it's just in a training room, wherever you might be, at least you get some kind of feedback. And there's nothing worse, and this is why I think people have difficulties presenting in a Zoom room, is because if they can't engage, if they can't get at that kind of feedback, then it just makes their presentation, it brings the energy down, doesn't it? It really just, that's what you can feel, is that people aren't kind of getting the energy from the audience to actually deliver an energetic, engaging presentation.
Absolutely. I mean, I often say that, you said the first sentence on my website says, if you are speaking and there's someone listening, it is public speaking. Absolutely. But also, I often say public speaking, presenting is a performance, whether we want it or not. If you want to do it well, if you want to have impact, if you want to have engagement, if you want to be listened to, and who doesn't? Is there anyone who would speak without wanting to be listened to?
Yeah.
If you're doing all of those things, it means that you have to put in a performance. You have to plan for it. You have to plan your punchlines, your taglines, your main points. And I believe this is where people struggle. They think, well, I'm just going to flip up the laptop. I've got a presentation that I used before. I sort of know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to deliver it. And that's fine as well. But then they might not get the impact that they want to. And my experience is that people do want the impact.
Yeah, of course.
And that comes with hard work.
Yeah. And I do the 3 B's, which is believe, breathe, and be prepared. And it's amazing how many people are not prepared. They because it makes them uncomfortable. And it's like, well, if you actually want to make that impact, you have to get into that uncomfortable place. And I was listening to Steve Bartlett, his audio book of Diary of a CEO, and he said, do what frightens you most as often as you can. And that's the point, is just put yourself in that uncomfortable position, feel it, go with it, and then do it again, and keep doing it, because that's when you really, really improve. That's where you grow. So that's what's important. And actually the stunt guys that have been working with, part of what we do with them is not just about the acting, but we get them to do like a 60-second elevator pitch.
Yes.
These guys have got, they were world champions in the room. They had, they'd worked on Black Widow, they'd worked on the Marvel films, they'd been, an orc in Lord of the Rings, there was some amazing stuff in the room. And yet on the Monday morning, when we said, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, they mentioned none of that. They had no idea how to confidently present themselves. So through the week, as well as the acting, they learn how to speak. If they were in a room with people that were going to be influential, they knew from the feedback they were getting in the room, and they only know that from saying it out loud, that then they got the feedback from other people in the room saying, oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, don't forget to mention that. Make sure you bring that one up, because we so often don't realize the value we have in our own experience. And unless you say it out loud and let people hear you, then you don't know that. So that's, really, really need to practice that. We've had a comment from the lovely Trisha Lewis,
Oh,
who I'm going to put this on the screen, but it's quite a big one. Presenting to a screen of blank squares online is an out-of-body experience. It requires a lot of imagination. I conjure up a picture of a real group of people, but that is easier said than done. Absolutely, Trisha.
yes,
Absolutely.
here,
Yeah.
we agree.
Yeah. And
Um,
thank you for being here.
yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about then putting people on a stage, because I know that you did, as Trisha has done a TEDx talk, but you have been somebody that's helped people with their TEDx talks in a TEDx space. So I know you did TEDx at Southampton. And was that before lockdown or after?
It was just after.
Just after,
We
yeah.
were already let out. I remember that the practice runs, we were still wearing masks. So it was as we were coming out of COVID. And working with speakers is something I love. Most of the people I work with in the public speaking space would be, and I often say this to them: you are a seasoned, mature presenter. I'm not here to start with the what we would call the basics. We're here to take it up to the next level. Everyone in a TEDx final is a fantastic speaker, but it's working with the small detail. I am fascinated by words. The choice of words makes a talk. So we would get lost in the choice of words. And interestingly enough, one of the first, so there's two things I start with. One is introduction, which is something you've already mentioned. Even people at high level, even seasoned presenters, when you say to them, so who are you? It's often a name and a position, even at high level. And I'm like, you're more than that. That's not who you are. That's just a name and a position. Who are you? What do you love doing? What do you care about? What's a funny statement about you? How do you draw on your authority, establish your credibility? Why are you the person who is talking to us? So that's one of the things I would start with. And then ultimately my next question is, what's your main point? And that always catches people out. And without a concise main point, what I call tagline, there's no talk.
Yeah.
Then it's just a string of words. So that's what we would work on. This is where we started with the most amazing TEDx speakers.
Yes.
We started with introductions and main points or tagline.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, yeah, I love working with people that have a story to tell. They have an idea that they want to get out there, and then you have to craft that into that sort of 20 minutes. And Trisha will know exactly how that feels to be able to fit everything you want to say into that nice little compact amount of time, because so often people, you say to them, you've got to talk for 20 minutes, and they'll go, oh God, no, I can't. But actually they could easily talk for 20 minutes. They could talk for an hour if you let them.
Yes.
So if they're talking about what they love. So it's really distilling it and finding the gold in what it is that they have to do. They have to say that's really going to engage the audience, entertain them, and get them to remember that one point, that point that you need them to take away.
Exactly. And if the speaker cannot tell you that one point in a very concise manner, then the audience won't be able to. So this is where everything starts. And that goes back to what you said about, was it Stephen Bartlett, who said, go there, do the thing that scares you the most, which is facing the fact that, okay, maybe I've got a few thoughts here, but actually, do I know what I really want?
Yeah. What's the point?
What's the point? What do I want? Yes.
Yeah. It is that for me. It's like why should your audience care?
Yes.
It's about them, isn't it? It's about the audience. It's about saying to them, actually getting that point across. I have to say, we've done 30 minutes already, AD. I'm just gobsmacked. I know.
And you getting into it.
You're just getting me excited. I could now talk for another hour. So
How amazing.
Yeah, Trisha saying the discipline of a time constraint is painfully beautiful. I love that.
Isha, I love everything that you say. I was going to say, wasn't it Aristotle who said, making the complex simple is the biggest art form, and I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
Distilling the meaning of what you want to say is it's beautiful. It's beautiful to
Absolutely.
do.
Absolutely. Oh,
Oh,
look.
yes. Hey, lovely to see you. You're here. Someone whom I worked with. Oh, so nice to see you.
Bring the inner confident work. If you want to grow from where you are now to where you want to be in the future, it's scary, but anything worth having is scary. I highly recommend connecting with AD. Fabulous. Fabulous. Well, I'm going to show all your details soon. But as we have run out of time, and apologies, we will run over slightly, because I want to ask you, AD, what, in your opinion, makes a good speaker good and a bad speaker suck?
Okay, tough question. I'm going to start with the bad speaker, which I wouldn't call anyone a bad speaker to start with. This is never a label I would assign. I would say there are speakers who prepare and have clarity of thoughts, and they will excel. They will be the ones who have an impact. And then there are speakers who have an idea of what they want to say, but they might not have prepared, or they might not have known how to prepare for an impactful speaking event, and therefore they might lose the audience. They might not engage. They might not leave an impact, and that for me is a lost opportunity. Not a bad speaker, but a lost opportunity.
Yeah, a lost opportunity. Absolutely, that's just what I was going to say. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to put up your this is your website. So this is where people can come and check out exactly what you do. And this is your Instagram, which is obviously the place that you like to hang out most, I think. So is there anything else, anywhere else that you'd like people to come and find you, or?
These are my main platforms, my website and Instagram. I often share tips and elements of my life and what I do. So yes, that's my space, if you like. And
Brilliant.
thank you so much for having me.
You're
and also,
welcome.
I think you've got Frida Kahlo behind you on that pillow.
On my pillow.
I was wearing a Frida Kahlo t-shirt all day today, and I changed last minute. I should have kept it on.
I've got a couple of pictures. I've got a couple of pictures up there as well. Yes, I do love her work. I do love her work. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being here. We have got, I think there's another comment here. Let me just double check. Oh, Nicola. Yeah, thank you, Nicola, for being here too. I'm just going to put my website up here. If anybody needs to get hold of me or would like to speak to me about anything, then that's fabulous. Next week, I'm here with the awesome Mark Schaefer, who I cannot believe has agreed to come onto my live. So I'm really, really excited about that. So thank you very much to Mark for agreeing to that. But AD, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And if any of you guys out there are watching on the replay, then AD and myself are both happy to answer any questions that you might want to put in the comments below. So thank you again, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.